Hey everybody, this is Will over at MCGTechTalk, and today I'm going to talk about the 8Bitdo NES30 PRO controller. Now, this little guy is a wireless Bluetooth controller that works on iOS, Android, Windows, and there's also firmware updates to be able to work on the RetroPie 5 and the Wii U, and I also believe PS3, but didn't test it. I got this thing for about $40 plus tax at Micro Center because I wanted a little baby controller that I could play on my phone and make a little emulation station with that. And look at it, it's really cool. Well, this controller has all of the necessary buttons that you need. You have a D-pad here, which feels very responsive, and the front buttons themselves are very responsive. They have a nice tactile feedback, and they go down really easily. You have 4 shoulder buttons. You got 2 here, and then you have also 2 over here for L and R. They're not, to save space, they are not set out, but they are close together. So if you're playing like this, it will be kind of hard to hit that without some sort of muscle memory. And if you put 10 hours into this controller, it'd feel really smooth and you get really used to it. But having them to be able to play like this or going back and forth, that might be a little tricky for when you first start out. There's also L3 and R3, which feel really thick to hit. These little things down here, the analog joysticks, they're a little small, but considering the size of the unit and how thick they wanted it to be, it's not bad. You'll overshoot if you're not too careful. There are power buttons, and there's a secondary button on the other side for pairing. Now, when I pick it up like this. I always pick it up like this, and I was constantly hitting the power button, which is okay because there's a little delay. You have to hold down the power button for a second before it starts to turn on. So it wasn't too bad. It did feel kind of... This button was easier to press than these buttons. It'd be nice if they could figure out some way of having it different, but I don't see how. There's these nice little blue LEDs on the side that light up that give you indications for pairing and whether it's connected. You can hold the button back down to turn them off. You see that? Battery life, you're sitting at probably about, I'm going to say 10 hours. Other people's gotten about 18 or so, but it's always safe to keep it at about 10 for high level play. I was able to pair this very easily with my Android phone, and when I played the first original Sonic, the one that they have out on the Play Store, it worked very well. It was able to see the controller. It knew all the buttons, everything to be able to run, jump, and spin dash with Sonic. There's quite a few different games on the Play Store that will initially work with this without any sort of hackneyed setup, and that's where all the different modes come into. You have your joystick, you have your Bluetooth keyboard. This also can connect to iCade for the iOS. You have an EmuTouch screen, so that means this will be like a mouse pointer for your Android phone. But for that, you're going to need root on your Android phone, and since most people don't have it, and lately there's been less of a reason to have it on there, that one you might not use very often. You also have a USB joystick. You can plug in the micro USB cable that comes with this. You can plug that into a Android device, but you'll need an OTG cable to get it to function that way. You can also plug it into your computer's USB keyboard or USB ports to be able to get that kind of functionality. And it doesn't use X input through Bluetooth, which really that's one of the biggest reasons why I wanted this. I wanted to be able to use this controller to replace my Xbox 360 controller and just play games, just pick it up, turn it on, connect through Bluetooth, and then go on my way, because it's a very good feeling controller. But the only way to get X input on this is to hold down the power button with R1, let it power on, plug in the USB cable, plug it into your computer. After that, it recognizes it as Xbox 360 controller, which is great for Steam games and things like that, because that's the de facto controller that people will use. That's really my only downside to this. My 6-year-old son got a chance to play with this, and if it did have X input over Bluetooth, that would be his controller for his little gaming computer that he's got. He's only 6, and it's good for him. It's nice and light. It's not gonna hurt on the hands for him. Some of the smaller controllers that I've used, going crab style to be able to play, after a while it starts to hurt as you get older. This one feels real good. It feels like it's just wide enough and just big enough to be able to hold. Maybe after, if I was to play battery from 100% to 0%, my hands might hurt a little bit. But overall, this controller, for as small as it is, feels real good. There's a couple other things that come in the box. You get the controller, you get a decent USB cable, which is flat, and then you get a nice little keychain. All this for $40 is a really good deal. They also have this in a SNES version, which the coloring is different. I prefer this one just because it just seems to be the one that I gravitate towards too. All in all, if this had X input over Bluetooth, I would probably buy 4 or 5 of them. Keep a couple at the house, keep a couple at work, a couple in my pockets at all times, and this would probably replace all of the Xbox 360 controllers that I use for gaming. But even though it doesn't have it, it's still an amazing controller. And if you play like emulation game, if you play emulators on your Android phone, or you play on iOS Arcade, it's still very good. It's really easy to configure the buttons and get them go. PP, SS, PP seem to work very well with it, which is nice because it's got all the buttons. So if you're going to play PlayStation, PSP games, some sort of attempt at playing PS2 games on your Android phone, this is going to work out really well. And then obviously, if you play any of the older games, you're going to get the decent D-pad and the very good buttons. The start and select buttons are a little spongy, but I believe that's just by design. I mean, it makes it feel like it's some of the older controllers, and these things are a little bit rubbery. I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get it. It's you know that feeling. You know that feeling. So there's that. And like I said, this is highly recommended, and I do believe that if you do any sort of Android gaming, even on like a Shield or something, you'd probably get a really good benefit from this. So yeah, there you go. The NES30 controller. Really recommend it.